Look around your home right now. Not quickly. Actually look. Open the drawer you haven't opened in months. Look inside the closet. Check the bathroom cabinet. Look at the things sitting on shelves that you stopped noticing years ago. There's a strange possibility. Some of the things taking up space in your home aren't things you actually want. They're things you feel obligated to keep because you paid for them, because someone gave them to you, because you might need them someday, or simply because throwing them away feels wrong. In Japan, there are several ideas that approach possessions very differently. Not every Japanese household is minimalist, and Japanese people certainly don't all throw away the same things. But philosophies such as Danshari, Mottainai, and Tsundoku have created a very different way of thinking about what deserves to remain in your home. And once you understand that way of thinking, some of the objects around you suddenly become impossible to ignore. Number 7 is probably hiding in your bathroom right now. Number 6 has an actual Japanese word. And number 16 changes the question you ask before keeping almost anything. Let's begin. Before the list, there's one idea that makes everything else make sense. In many Japanese aesthetics, empty space isn't automatically considered wasted space. It's part of the composition. This is where the concept of becomes useful. Can refer to the meaningful interval or space between things. A room doesn't become beautiful simply because you fill every empty corner. Sometimes the empty corner is what allows everything else to be noticed. Then there's Danshari, a modern Japanese decluttering philosophy popularized by Hideko Yamashita. Its basic idea is not simply throw things away. It's about refusing unnecessary things, letting go of what you don't need, and loosening your attachment to possessions. So this list isn't really about what Japanese people supposedly never own. It's about the kinds of things these philosophies encourage you to question. And once you start questioning them, you may realize how much of your home is filled with decisions you never finished making. Number 1. Expired medicines and products you no longer use. Open your bathroom cabinet. There may be old medicines, half-used creams, vitamins, or products you bought for one specific problem and completely forgot about. They sit there because removing them requires a decision. Is this still useful? Is it safe? Will I need it later? That hesitation creates clutter. The Japanese-inspired approach is simpler. Regularly review functional items and remove things that are expired or no longer appropriate. But medicines shouldn't simply be thrown away casually. Disposal should follow local pharmacy or waste guidance. The deeper lesson isn't about Japan having empty medicine cabinets. It's about refusing to let old problems permanently occupy present space. If you haven't needed something for years, keeping it doesn't preserve the past. It preserves the clutter associated with it. Number 2. Chipped or damaged dishes. You know the mug, the one with the tiny crack, the plate with the chipped edge, the bowl that technically still works, but looks like it survived a war. In Japan, there is a much more interesting response to broken objects: kintsugi. Traditional kintsugi repairs broken pottery, often using lacquer and powdered metal such as gold, while making the repair visible rather than hiding it. That's an important distinction. The Japanese lesson isn't broken things must be thrown away. It's almost the opposite. Repair what deserves repair. Respect what can be restored. But don't automatically keep something indefinitely just because you're afraid of waste. A damaged object can either become something intentionally beautiful again, or it can be released. The middle ground is keeping a broken thing for 5 years because you never made a decision. Number 3. Towels and linens that have reached the end of their useful life. Open the linen closet. You'll probably find towels nobody likes using, sheets that have become thin, blankets that exist entirely because someone might need them. This is where Mottainai gives the story an interesting twist. Mottainai is associated with regret over waste and appreciation for the value of resources. Instead of treating every old item as garbage, you can ask whether it still has another useful life. An old towel might become a cleaning cloth, a worn fabric might be repurposed, but once it has genuinely reached the end, keeping it forever isn't automatically more respectful. Sometimes the respectful thing is using something fully and then letting it go. The goal isn't maximum possessions, it's maximum usefulness. Number 4. Mystery cables. Open the electronics drawer. you'll find them. A charger for a phone you haven't owned since 2019. A cable that looks important but you don't know what it connects to. 3 adapters that might belong to something. This is one of the easiest forms of clutter to remove because the test is brutally simple. What does this belong to? If you cannot answer, put it in a temporary box. Give yourself a deadline. If you never identify or use it, release it. The problem isn't that cables take up enormous physical space, it's that every mystery object creates an unfinished question, and a home with hundreds of unfinished questions never feels completely quiet. Number 5. Decorative objects you constantly have to move. Think about your bed, your sofa, your dining table. How many things exist mainly to be moved whenever you clean? Decorative pillows, little ornaments, trays, figurines, objects that have no function except creating a particular look. There's nothing wrong with decoration, but Japanese aesthetics often give empty space a deliberate role. Ma reminds us that the space between objects can be part of the beauty. The question isn't, is this decorative? It's, does this deserve the space and attention it consumes? If you have to move an object twice a day and barely notice it anymore, that's worth questioning. Number 6. Books you keep promising yourself you'll read. This one has a Japanese word, Tsundoku. It describes acquiring reading material and letting it pile up unread. And honestly, almost every serious reader knows the feeling. You buy the book because you genuinely want to become the kind of person who reads it. Then another book arrives, then another. Eventually, the shelf becomes a physical record of your intentions. But here's the important part. Unread books aren't automatically bad clutter. A library can be valuable even when every book hasn't been read. The problem begins when the pile becomes a source of guilt rather than curiosity. Keep the books you genuinely want around. Donate the ones you've realistically accepted you won't read. The goal isn't an empty bookshelf, it's a bookshelf that reflects your actual interests. Number 7. Free samples and hotel toiletries. Look in the bathroom drawer. Tiny shampoo bottles, hotel soap, lotion samples, perfume testers, promotional products, things you kept because they were free. This category is fascinating because the price was zero, but the objects still occupy space. The question isn't whether something was free, the question is whether you actually use it. If you've moved the same tiny bottle between 3 bathrooms without opening it, it has already answered the question for you. Use it, give it away, recycle or dispose of it appropriately, but stop creating a museum of things you received accidentally. Number 8. Decorations you don't even see anymore. Walk around your house and look at the walls, not whether they look good. Look at how many things are competing for your attention. Photos, prints, signs, posters, frames, small decorative pieces on every surface. Japanese interiors can emphasize restraint, with features such as the tokonoma, a dedicated alcove traditionally used to display a carefully selected artwork or object. The idea isn't that Japanese homes have no decoration, it's that one intentional object can sometimes have more visual impact than 20 competing objects. You don't need to remove every picture from your walls. Remove the things you stopped seeing 3 years ago. Number 9. Duplicate kitchen tools. Open the kitchen drawer. How many spatulas? How many peelers? How many wooden spoons? How many measuring cups? 1 is useful. 4 can become annoying. This is where Japanese-inspired minimalism becomes practical rather than philosophical. Keep the tool that works best. Donate duplicates that exist only because you bought a newer version without removing the old one. The goal isn't to own the fewest things possible, it's to make every remaining thing easy to find and easy to use. A drawer shouldn't be an archaeological site. Number 10. Gifts you keep only because you feel guilty. This one is harder. Someone gave you a mug, a decoration, a piece of clothing. You don't like it. You never use it. But every time you think about removing it, you hear the person's voice in your head. But they gave it to me. Here's the important distinction. Gratitude and permanent ownership are not the same thing. You can appreciate the intention behind a gift without keeping the physical object forever. The gift already completed its purpose when someone chose it for you. You don't need to turn appreciation into a lifetime storage contract. Number 11. Wedding and event items from a life you don't actually live. Maybe you have formal plates you never use, Serving dishes designed for huge dinner parties, a fondue set from a wedding registry, a specialized appliance you haven't touched in years. These objects can become symbols of an imagined lifestyle. The question isn't whether the object is expensive. Ask something more uncomfortable. If I didn't already own this, would I choose to bring it into my home today? If the answer is no, you may be storing an old version of your expectations. Number 12. Objects from relationships that ended. Old letters, clothes, souvenirs, gifts from an ex. Photographs. There is no universal Japanese rule saying these must disappear, but Danshari offers a useful question about attachment. Are you keeping the object because it serves your life now, or because you're afraid of letting go? Sometimes the object is genuinely meaningful and deserves to stay. Sometimes it keeps reopening a chapter you've already closed. The decision should come from what the object does to your present life, not from guilt about your past. Number 13. Clothes that belong to someone you used to be. Open your closet. There's the shirt from your old job, the jeans from 10 years ago, the outfit you keep because you might lose weight, the clothes from a hobby you abandoned. Your closet can quietly become a museum of previous identities. A Japanese-inspired approach is to ask a very simple question: does this support the person I am now? If yes, keep it. If it doesn't fit, isn't comfortable, or hasn't been worn in years, release it. You aren't throwing away your memories, you're making room for your current life. Number 14. Objects you keep because you might need them someday. This is probably the biggest category in your entire house. Boxes, containers, spare furniture, random hardware, empty jars, packaging, extra bags, things that could theoretically become useful, and occasionally, they do. That's why this category is difficult. The solution isn't to throw everything away immediately. Create a maybe box. Put questionable items inside. Write the date. If you haven't needed them after 6 months, you have evidence, not certainty. Evidence. Danshari isn't about predicting every future need. It's about refusing to let hypothetical futures dominate your present home. Number 15. Things you inherited but never actually wanted. This may be the hardest category. Your grandmother's dishes, your father's tools, a relative's furniture, someone else's books. You keep them because throwing them away feels like throwing away the person, but the object and the memory are not the same thing. You can preserve photographs, tell stories, keep one meaningful item instead of 50 objects you never use, give valuable things to relatives who genuinely want them, donate them, restore them, but don't confuse love with storage. The person you lost doesn't become less important because you finally released an object. And number 16. Anything you are keeping for someone else's expectations. This is the deepest one. Look around your home and find one object you have never used, never loved, and never wanted, but still can't remove. Now ask why. Maybe your mother expects you to keep it. Maybe the person who gave it to you would be offended. Maybe you spent too much money on it. Maybe throwing it away feels irresponsible. Maybe you think someone might judge you. That is the moment the object becomes more than an object. It's an expectation. And this is where Japanese decluttering philosophies become surprisingly powerful. Your home doesn't need to prove that you're grateful. It doesn't need to prove that you're successful. It doesn't need to preserve every version of your past. It needs to support the life you're actually living. The purpose of decluttering isn't to own nothing. It's to remove the things that constantly demand attention without giving enough value back. And that's why the most important thing Japanese-inspired decluttering teaches isn't what to throw away, it's how to decide what deserves to stay. So here's the 3-question audit. Pick one drawer tonight, one shelf, one corner. Take every questionable object and ask, would I buy this again today? If you wouldn't, that's information. Second, does this belong to my present life, or am I keeping it for my past or an imaginary future? And third, if this disappeared tomorrow, would I actually miss it? If the honest answer is no, you have permission to consider letting it go. Not because Japanese people have discovered some magical way to live, not because empty rooms are automatically better, but because space has value too. The things you own require attention. They require cleaning, storing, organizing, maintaining, and eventually deciding what happens to them. Sometimes the most valuable thing you can remove from your home isn't an object, it's the unfinished decision attached to that object. Look around your home again. Which of these 16 things are you still keeping? And which one have you known for years should probably go? Tell me the number in the comments. I read every single one. I'll see you in the next one.